Welcome back to Klinga Games. Today I'm going to go over my new draft team. I don't know if you guys are aware, but previously I was in a draft team that was, our draft league, that was all monotype, and I was using the poison type team. That league, unfortunately, didn't continue, and the creator of the league created a new draft league called the Quantum Battle Association, which we just finished our draft, and this week will be the first week of the season. So I wanted to go over my team really quick, just give a rundown of the Pokemon I drafted, why I drafted them, and just give you an introduction into this season's Cincinnati Crobats. So the first Pokemon I drafted is Thundurus. Thundurus is a very versatile Pokemon. It's an amazing support Pokemon, first and foremost, which is the main reason I drafted it. It gets the ability Prankster, which gives all of its status moves +1 priority, which means that they will almost always move first, but they do not affect dark types, or any Pokemon touching the ground in psychic terrain, which is a bit of a newish rule that you can pretty easily forget about. So I just kind of threw on for all of my Pokemon, I kind of threw on a just base move set, just like a typical move set that I would run if I was running it in like regular VGC. These are not necessarily going to be the move sets that I run every week, but it's just a little overview of each one. So Thundurus gets access to Thunder, obviously it's in the name, but it also gets access to Priority Rain Dance. Rain Dance gives Thunder a 100% accurate accuracy. So Thundurus can set itself up to just nail opponents with Thunders over and over again, which it's mostly here as a support Pokemon, but it's really good to have a support Pokemon that isn't completely passive and can give damage on its own when the time comes for that. It also gets Priority Eerie Impulse and Priority Taunt, which are both also amazing. Eerie Impulse lowers the target's special attack by 2. Normally, physical attackers are the ones that are more worried about getting their attacking stat dropped because of Intimidate, so special attackers usually feel safer. But with Thundurus, you can lower their special attack before they even get a move off, which is very, very useful. And then Taunt shuts down other status moves, so we could be running into Pokemon with Follow Me, Helping Hand, or even just shutting down Protect, so it's not a guessing game. Taunt's just really, really useful, and it just really helps shut down other teams' support options. The second Pokemon I drafted, which sort of conflicts with Thundurus, but really I'm planning on not really running them together at all, is Indeedee F, or female. So Indeedee gets the ability Psychic Surge, which sets Psychic Terrain immediately, which prevents priority moves from happening. So Thundurus and Indeedee will not play very well together, but I thought it was important to get two really, really good supporting Pokemon. That way, the Pokemon that I drafted after that, I can kind of just use, and I've got basically the two of the best support options in the game to help really utilize them to their full ability. So a typical Indeedee female set is Expanding Force, Helping Hand, Protect, and Mystical Fire. Expanding Force is just amazing in Psychic Terrain. It hits both targets, and its power goes up to 120, and then Stab on top of that. So it's really kind of a nuke attack, even with Indeedee mostly just being defensive. It's going to do a pretty good chunk, which again, it's a support Pokemon that's not completely passive and can actually threaten a lot of the opponents by itself. Helping Hand gives your ally 1.5 times their damage, which is going to be very, very good with up here on the top Moltres and Porygon Z. If I've got one of those next to Indeedee, I can just kind of let loose with just giant attacks and just basically turn it into a game where if they can't resist the moves, then they are going to lose. And then Protect and Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire, similar to Eerie Impulse, it lowers the target's special attack by 1. It's got a 100% chance of that. But it's a attacking move, so it cannot be shut down by Taunt, which is very important. The next Pokemon I drafted is Moltres Galar, which is one of my favorite new Pokemon. I'm really, really loving it. I I really like the design of it. It's my favorite of the new, it's my favorite design-wise of the new birds. Arctic is my favorite overall of all three, or of all six, Kanto Arctic Uno. It's got a really cool ability called Berserk, which only one other Pokemon has, that when its health lowers below 1/2 due to an attack, the special attack increases by 1, which is really nice because you can pair it with something like a citrus berry. So you can go down below half HP, increase your special attack by 1, and then eat your berry, go back above, and then repeat the process to get a +2. And that's got an amazing signature move called Fiery Wrath, which is a spread move that hits both targets, 90 power, 100% accurate, and it has a 20% chance to make the opponent flinch. So if we can get some speed boosts on Moltres and then just start shooting Fiery Wraths, we have a pretty good chance of flinching the opponent. It also gets Air Slash, which also has a 30% chance to make them flinch. So Moltres G is very, very tough to deal with if it has some speed boosts on it. Which is another thing, is that it can Dynamax and throw out Airstreams to increase its speed. And then it'll generally run Nasty Plot if it feels unthreatened, or if it's next to something like Indeedee, which can follow me. It can just throw up Nasty Plots, get itself up to +2 immediately, and then just really threaten from turn 1. Porygon Z is not really used a whole lot in the current meta because there's a lot of rock and steel types that are really popular. But it has an amazing ability called Adaptability, which changes the same type attack bonus, which is normally 1.5. It changes it to 2. So any normal type move when Porygon Z uses it is basically super effective. And that combined with its 135 special attack and Hyper Beam in Dynamax, where it doesn't have to recharge, makes Porygon Z very, very difficult to deal with if you didn't bring something that resists or is immune to normal type moves. And even then, it has great moves like Dark Pulse, Ice Beam. It's also got Thunderbolt to really threaten Pokemon that even resist Hyper Beam. So that again paired up with Indeedee, who can follow me damage away, and Helping Hand to increase the power of those moves even more. Porygon Z can be very, very difficult. So normally it's not that useful because there's like Metagross and Tyranitar and all the like really defensive Pokemon running around. But in the Draft League, not every team is going to have one of those. Only one person gets a Metagross, only one person gets a Tyranitar. So Porygon Z has a much better chance of getting on the field and just kind of running through the opponent's team. The next one I drafted is Ludicolo. I really wanted Kingdra, but unfortunately that was taken earlier. So I wanted a Swift Swim Sweeper to pair with Thundurus, because Thundurus can set the rain for it, and then that makes Ludicolo just ridiculously fast. It's got a really good move set. It's got some good physical moves. It's got some good special moves. Normally I'm going to be running special, but it has a pretty good chance to run physical and really throw the teams off. Its special attack is better at 90, but 70 attack to an unprepared opponent could do some damage. Especially, I've got on my example set, I've got Choice Specs, but it could also run Choice Band to do a physical set. The next one I drafted, which I had to draft, of course, because we're the Cincinnati Crobats, is Crobat. So Crobat, along the lines of Thundurus and Indeedee, is just a really, really good support Pokemon. I don't know how often I'll use it because it's kind of outclassed by Thundurus in a lot of ways. But the big thing that it has that Thundurus does not is Tailwind. So Tailwind doubles the ally's speed for 4 turns. And Crobat has 130 base speed. So there's a really, really good chance that most weeks Crobat will be the fastest thing around. Not the first week, unfortunately, which I'll go over later, but Crobat has a really good chance of getting that Tailwind off and really setting us up really early for one of our more offensive Pokemon to take over and just rip through the team. It also gets access to Quick Guard, which prevents priority attacks. So it kind of also fills kind of the same role that Indeedee does. So it's a nice support Pokemon that kind of fills the same roles, but in a different way as Indeedee and Thundurus. The next one I drafted is Registeel. If you watch my Registeel video, you know that I love Registeel's ability to get weakness policy off and just become an unstoppable juggernaut, which I'm hoping we can do in Draft League, because I really, really love Registeel. I love the Regis in general, just really fun Pokemon. So it's my set I've got on here is similar to the set I ran in my video, but I switched out Hammer Arm for Ice Punch. Registeel has a pretty good physical move pool. It's actually surprisingly good. It's got Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, obviously, ground attacks, rock attacks. It can be pretty good. And then its special attack is actually the same as its physical attack. So if we wanted to switch it up some week, we could run a special set and accomplish actually exactly the same thing. It's got some good electric type moves. It's got some good normal type moves, rock type moves. It's a pretty versatile Pokemon. I don't think people really give it the credit it deserves. Next up is Tauros. So Tauros was my first pick. That's kind of a defensive pivot. That'll be sort of support, but still threatening. And it also has some moves that can proc weakness policies for my other Pokemon that I've got on here. The base that I've got here is Assault Vest with Intimidate. That's another thing, is that a lot of the Intimidators went early, so Tauros was a good late pick for Intimidate. The set I've got here is Giga Impact, High Horsepower, Icy Wind, and Bulldoze. So Giga Impact is really good for just a one-time, you're going down this turn, so get some damage off. High Horsepower, good coverage with normal. It's actually got a really good moveset. Unfortunately, its special attack is horrible, but its physical moveset is still really good. So if we wanted to run offensive Tauros one week, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that. 100 base attack, 110 base speed, pretty good bulk with Intimidate. Could be really, really good. It also gets Sheer Force and Anger Point if we want to run an offensive set. But I really like Tauros. It's been one of my favorites since Gen 1, so I'm hoping we get to bring it some weeks, because that would be really fun for me. The next one I brought is another one of my Gen 1 favorites, is Alakazam. I think in terms of design-wise, I prefer Kadabra, but I still really like Alakazam. Alakazam gets one of the best abilities in the game called Magic Guard, which it only takes damage from direct attacks. So Life Orb damage, Toxic, Poison, Burn, Vocalith, pretty much all the residual damage Alakazam is immune to. So it would be really nice on a defensive Pokemon. Alakazam's defenses are really, really bad, but it helps with the longevity to not take Life Orb damage, especially with a fast sweeper like Alakazam, where it's going to get that 1.3 boost, but not lose 1/10 of its HP. So that's going to be really, really useful. So the base set I've got here is Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam, and Shadow Ball with Protect. Expanding Force is going to be amazing next to Indeedee. Again, you don't really see Alakazam a lot in the current meta, because there's a lot of Steel types and there's a lot of Dark types running around. But in the Draft League, not everyone's going to have a Steel type, not everyone's going to have a Dark type, and their Steel and Dark types might not be very good. So Alakazam could just run in and just spam Expanding Force, take out their threats, and then have another one of its teammates take care of the Dark types. So it's going to be really fun to see how we can utilize Alakazam. I ran I think it was Series 7, where they had the banned list. First banned list in VGC, I think. I ran an Alakazam team, and I really, really loved it. So I'm hoping I can kind of recreate that success in the Draft League, because it would be really cool to see Alakazam get some success. Second to last is switching it up, one of my favorites from Gen 8. So one of my favorites from the most recent generation is Greedent. I didn't really like it at first when I saw it in game, but it really, really grew on me, and I really think it's just adorable when it Dynamaxes and just runs through people. So it's got the base that I've got here is Body Slam, Crunch, Body Press, and Stuffed Cheeks. Stuffed Cheeks is Greedent's signature ability, or signature move rather. It must hold a berry to use it, but it raises its defense by +2. So it's got really good defense at 95. So Stuffed Cheeks plus Body Press could be a really, really fun set to use, where a lot of Pokemon don't have defense lowering moves and abilities. It's usually attack lowering. So normally for something like Greedent, you would feel safe bringing in an Intimidator, lowering its attack, and just kind of running away with the game. But with Body Press and Stuffed Cheeks, you can Intimidate all you want. The Body Press is a really cool move where they use the defensive stat instead of the attack stat in the damage calculation. So it doesn't matter how low Greedent's attack gets if we use Body Press and its defense is raised. So it could be really, really fun to use Greedent, and I'm really hoping I get to use it. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good Trick Room setter. I kind of noticed that at the end of the draft, that I drafted it without a Trick Room setter. And Greedent's speed is base 20, so it will be one of the slowest Pokemon in the game. But with the support options we have, I think Greedent will do just fine, and I'm really excited to bring it. The last Pokemon I drafted, which I'm kind of surprised it was on the board, is Raikou. So Raikou is one of the legendary beasts from Gen 2. I keep saying this, but it's my favorite of the legendary beasts. If you haven't caught on, I kind of drafted a team of my favorites. I'm going to see how they work. But it recently got access to its hidden ability Inner Focus with the ability patches in Crown Tundra. So normally it used to be its only ability was Pressure, which just uses up opponent's PP, which doesn't really help Raikou a whole lot because it's a speedy Pokemon. It's not really meant to take a lot of hits. But with Inner Focus, it makes it immune to flinch and immune to intimidate, but it's a special attacker, so we don't really care about that. But the immune to flinch is really, really good because it's really fast and it's got really good special attack. So we can use it to basically sweep through teams, and a lot of the times for like hyper offensive Pokemon, a good way to stop them is to fake them out, use the move Fake Out and make them flinch. But Raikou is going to be immune to that. So Raikou is going to be really fun to use. It could be one of the offensive Pokemon that I've been talking about with Indeedee and Crobat and Thundurus to support them and just kind of run through teams with it. So I'm really, really excited to use Raikou. I've never used it in VGC. Eventually I'll get around to making a set of teams around the legendary beasts, and Raikou might be the first one I do for that because I really love Raikou. So next up we'll look at my opponent's team, and for these movesets I kind of just pulled the most popular set from Pikalytics. So this is not the ones, my Pokemon that I listed were in draft order. I'm not sure what their draft order is. They were listed on the team sheet in alphabetical order, so I'm just going to go through in alphabetical order for my opponent's team. I'm sure this is not the way they drafted them. I don't think they drafted Golurk as their third Pokemon, but I'll go through their team, kind of talk about what I'm concerned about week 1, and what the biggest threats on their team are. So the first up is Clefairy. Clefairy, just like Indeedee, is one of the best supporting Pokemon in the game. It could actually be made an argument that it is the best in the game. With Eviolite, its stats are really bad. 70 HP, 48 defense, 65 special defense, really, really bad. But with Eviolite, its defense and special defense are increased by 1.5 because it's a Pokemon that can still evolve. So even though its stats are absolutely terrible, its Eviolite gives it more bulk than you would expect. And then it also has, it's not a signature ability, the Jigglypuff line gets this as well, but Friend Guard, which is basically a light screen on your side of the field at all times, where your ally, you and your allies, or I don't know if it's Clefairy, but definitely the ally receives 3/4 of the damage it normally would. So that is a huge amount of damage to change, and it could take stuff that's clearly a KO to being easily tanking it and knocking you out in return. So Clefairy is a very big concern, and it also gets Follow Me, so it pulls attacks toward itself, which would be kind of threatening if I ran dragons, but I don't, so that's not really as big of a threat to me as you would normally see. But it also gets kind of the same two set of moves that Indeedee can be dangerous with, is Follow Me and Helping Hand. So we got to be really concerned about Clefairy. He's got some really good attackers. We got to be concerned about Clefairy using Helping Hand and just kind of getting a KO that I'm not expecting. So I got to take those into account every turn. Next Pokemon they drafted, which I think this one was definitely one of his first Pokemon they drafted. I'm not sure what round, is Garchomp. So Garchomp is the pseudo-legendary from Gen 4. Pseudo-legendary, if you don't know, it's one set of Pokemon from each generation has a base stat total of exactly 600, and it's a 3-stage evolution. The first one was Dragonite, and then it's Tyranitar, Salamence, Metagross. So Garchomp is the pseudo for Gen 4, which basically means it has really, really good stats, and it's going to be really, really tough to take out. One of the good things about Garchomp is that it is Dragon Ground, so it does have a it's got a double weakness to Ice. So any Ice-type moves are going to be doing huge, huge damage into Garchomp. So I just pulled this from Pikalytics, but it's got Rock Slide, Earthquake. It's got a really good physical moveset, and it's got a 130 base attack and 102 speed. So it can be very dangerous to deal with. So we don't want to see this one a whole lot. The next one they have is Golurk, which I'm not sure why you would ever use it. It's got 124 attack, but the rest of its stats are not very good. It's not very fast. It's not even slow enough to run well in Trick Room. Its defense and special defense are not the best in the world. It does have a great ability, No Guard, which means every move used by this Pokemon will always hit, but it also works in the opposite, that every move targeting the opponent always hits, which with its lower base speed kinda is a really bad double-edged sword there. Incineroar is kind of concerning with Intimidate, but if you look at our team, a lot of our team are special attackers, and the ones that are physical attackers, or the one basically, Registeel, is not going to be too concerned about Intimidate. It does get Fake Out and Parting Shot though, which is going to be very tough to deal with. Fake Out always moves first, and it always flinches the opponent unless they are Inner Focus and are immune to flinching. And then Parting Shot, you switch out and you lower the target's attack and special attack by 1. So even like Inner Focus Pokemon that are immune to Intimidate, Incineroar can still lower their stats, so that can be very frustrating. Next up is Klefki, which I really like, but is not very good. It's one of the prankster Pokemon, just like Thundurus, where its status moves will be increased by 1. It's actually a pretty good screen setter with Light Screen and Reflect, but it doesn't really have any kind of attacking stats that make you worried. Where I was talking about Thundurus like being a support Pokemon that isn't passive, Klefki is very passive. So it will get the screens up and it could support its team really well, but you can really target around it and not be too concerned about what it's going to do to you. Next up is one of the scarier Pokemon on the team. Up there with the next Pokemon on the list is Landorus T. So Landorus T is another Intimidate user, but this one is a legendary, so it's got amazing stats. And it is not just around for Intimidate. Intimidate on Landorus T is more of an added bonus than the reason you use it, like Incineroar. So Landorus T is going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Again, luckily, we are mostly special attackers, so we shouldn't really be too concerned about the Intimidate. But Landorus T is really known for running Assault Vest, which increases special defense by 1.5. So that is going to be a concern to our special attackers. But we should have a number of tools that can help deal with it. Next up is a Pokemon I'm most concerned about is Metagross, which has Weakness Policy, or it has Clear Body, and it can run Weakness Policy. So that means if it gets hit by a super effective move, its attack and special attack will increase by 2 stages, and you can't lower its stats back down because of Clear Body. So similar to the strategy I use, actually exactly the same as the strategy I use with Registeel, is you hit it with a weak, super effective move, and then Metagross just kind of runs through the team. So that is very concerning. So we'll have to keep an eye out on what Pokemon can proc its weakness policy, and really focus on eliminating that threat. The next Pokemon he's got is Primarina, which is a really, really good water type, but not as good right now. It's got amazing special defense and special attack, but its physical defense and attack is not very good. So Fairy and Water is a really good typing. It has a lot of resistances and not a whole lot of weaknesses. Basically just Grass, Electric, and Poison. So it could be a really good defensive pivot for my opponent's team, and something that I'm not too worried about on the offensive side, but the defensive side could be a real threat to us. The next Pokemon I drafted is Slowpoke G, which is not fully evolved, and you would think that there's no reason to use it, but there actually is a very, very good strategy that Slowpoke G can use. It is up there with the slowest Pokemon in the game. It's even slower than Greedent, and it gets Belly Drum. So if you get Slowpoke G under Trick Room and get that Belly Drum, even though it's not really threatening by itself, like in the normal state, with only 65 attack and bad special defense, decent HP, once it gets that Belly Drum off, it really hits like a truck. Fortunately, we will not be playing under Trick Room, and I don't think they really have a premier Trick Room setter either. So fortunately for us, we don't have to worry about the Slowpoke G wildcard. Next up, I think was their first pick. I think this one was their first pick, is Spectrier. Spectrier is a very, very good special attacker. It's got 145 special attack and 130 speed. So like I mentioned, Crobat will not necessarily be moving first this week, and that's because of Spectrier. They tie in speed, and when you're tied in speed, you basically have a speed tie, which is it's completely random which one of them moves first. So I don't want to flip that coin, so I'm going to try and find a way to beat Spectrier without relying on outspeeding it with Crobat or running into any RNG. But Spectrier is very concerning to me, especially if my opponent watched my Registeel video. They may pair it with Metagross, and they could bulldoze with Spectrier to proc Metagross's weakness policy and support it from there. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out, and I'm very concerned about Spectrier. Spectrier and Metagross are the two Pokemon I'm most worried about. His last Pokemon is Urshifu Dark. So Urshifu has it's an interesting Pokemon. It's got one of the best. You could probably say it's the best ability in the game. It's Unseen Fist, which all contact moves hit through protection. So you can see the moves that I've got here: Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Sucker Punch. These all make contact, so these will all ignore Protect. So what's really concerning about Urshifu is that you cannot Protect in front of it. It's the only Pokemon in the game where Protect is not an option. And it's got a really good base 130 attack, and it's got a pretty solid 100 HP, 100 defense, but its special defense is really bad, and it's 4 times weak to Fairy-type moves. So even though we don't have a Fairy-type Pokemon on our team, we have Pokemon that can learn Fairy-type moves and can outspeed Urshifu, so I'm not 100% concerned with Urshifu. My biggest concerns going into this week are Metagross and Spectrier. So I'm really excited and really nervous to see how my opponent prepares for this week. It was a lot easier to do like a team preview with monotype, where I kind of knew what they would have to bring to deal with my Pokemon. First week of this league, it's really a kind of a wild card. I don't know what he's going to bring out and what he likes to bring. So it's really going to be fun to just see what happens, and then next week I'll get a better idea based on team reports about what the opponent likes to use and what kind of strategies they're trying to do with their teams. So this week, kind of bare bones because I don't know what to expect, and I don't know. Hopefully we'll have a good week, and I'll let you know about the win, hopefully, on Saturday or Sunday. Thank you for watching. If you like the video and you're excited about the draft league, if you want to see more content, subscribe to the channel. This one's kind of a dry video because it's just a rundown of the team, but next week should be more exciting with the first week of the season. So hopefully come and watch that. Thank you for watching.